Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner, and this is stage 12 of the Giro d'Italia. This is the longest stage we've had so far at 212 kilometers in length, about 130 miles. 4 categorized climbs, and 2 of them are Cat 2, and the last climb being a Cat 3. The Cat 3 at the finish, 12 kilometers in length, but 3 of those kilometers are just under 10%, so it's a hard finish, followed by a crazy descent and a 4-kilometer flat valley to the finish. Right away at the stage, there's a crash at the back. It looks pretty harmless, and it's Marc Soler back there from Movistar and Gino Mader that's caught up in the crash. They'll spend the next 30 kilometers trying to get back to the front, but they're both hurt, and they'll abandon on today's race. Further up front, there's another crash. We don't get to see it. It's Alessandro Di Marchi from Israel Startup Nation, and he'll be taken off in the ambulance. Best wishes for Di Marchi. We heard that he had a bunch of broken bones, but he should be okay. Now, back to the action. It's 60 kilometers of hard racing. The first 60 kilometers, nothing slows down, and it's attack after attack with 15-man breaks, 20-man breaks, 25-man breaks. Peter Sagan finally starts getting into the action too, hoping to get into a break and possibly win some more sprint points, maybe even go to the end of the stage. Who knows? Finally, when it's gone, about 60 kilometers into the race, the group sits up and they're happy to let it go. I know personally when you do 60 kilometers from the beginning of the race all the way to this point, once they finally sit up, it is a magical moment to get that time to rest, fuel up, start drinking again, and start thinking about the end of the stage. Now up front, they're given a lot of time. 16-man break, and my man Victor Campenaerts is in there. I got all excited when I saw Victor. He's always doing something in these stages. He won't have a good stage, though. He will put in a bit of attack there and try to get a gap with about 110 kilometers still to race, but none of the guys back there having any of it, and they bring him back right away. Now the rain starts to come once we start getting into these bigger climbs of Category 2s, and that's what really makes the race interesting. Up until that point, we had the 60K, and then after the 60 kilometers, the commentators there are talking about yesterday's fiasco with the Deceuninck Quick-Step. Their director, Bramati, he's telling one story. Remco's telling another story. And Almeida, he won't speak at all. So there definitely was some drama at last night's dinner table. And I'm sure we'll see some other drama throughout this Giro when it comes to Deceuninck Quick-Step. They'll have one rider drop out. Fausto Masnada will end up abandoning on today's stage 2, which is going to be a big hit for Deceuninck Quick-Step because that's one of their climbers for Remco Evenepoel, and so now he's really going to need the help of Almeida somewhere in one of these later stages if those legs return that he lost at yesterday's stage 11. Up front, the rain starts, and they're going down these Category 2s. They're long, twisty, slippery descents now, and that's really what's causing the chaos and the fun for us sitting on the couch watching today's race. There's splits all over in the break. They'll finally get down to the bottom. They'll start the next climb, and somehow everyone will come back together, minus Victor Campenaerts. When we start the last Category 3, about 20 kilometers to go, is when the racing starts. Now, the downhills were crazy and technical, like watching Formula 1 racing, but we'll finally bring it all back together. We'll start the Category 3, and it's Gianluca Brambilla, Trek Segafredo, that starts the action, and he lights up the race. He'll split it down to 4 riders. George Bennett, and we've seen George Bennett last year's Tour de France, so everybody's familiar with him. He's a pure climber. Gianluca Brambilla, like I said, a good climber, but not a pure climber. Chris Hamilton, solid climber right there for DSM. And then we have the AG2R rider, Vendrame, who's just putting on a show. He'll attack all those climbers and get a gap of 10-15 seconds and hold them off for a few kilometers before they bring him back, going over the summit of the last climb on today's stage. Down the descent, they'll stay together. When they get to the valley with about 4 kilometers to go, it's just under 3K when George Bennett starts making a cluster of mistakes. He opens up a gap on Gianluca Brambilla, and Brambilla's not going to close it. That'll eliminate both those two out of this particular chance of winning today's stage. Up front, Vendrame, the AG2R rider, he's the fastest. Chris Hamilton throws in a dig, tries to get a gap, isn't going to happen. Vendrame counters him. Chris Hamilton has to bring him back. With 1K to go, Vendrame's on the front, and Chris Hamilton's doing the best he can to try to win today's stage. It's the only tactic left. He's going to sit on Vendrame all the way to the finish. With 150 meters to go, though, Vendrame punches it and runs it straight into the line, easily dispatching Chris Hamilton and winning today's stage for AG2R. Now, just behind, they're still third and fourth. Gianluca Brambilla's coming out of the slight bend that's going right to the finish, and he just basically brings George Bennett all the way left to the center of the road. I don't think there was any real bump in there, maybe a little love tap or something, but George Bennett will protest. They'll get relegated. So George will get third. Gianluca Brambilla will be fourth. His interview after the race, you guys got to go catch that. It was absolutely classic, and he was just laying into George Bennett on his race tactics on today's stage. I got to agree with Gianluca Brambilla. George Bennett's tactics were not that beautiful. Even at the finish there, I think it was more of a love tap. We might have been watching more soccer where you need a little more drama and acting classes in order to get that third place on today's stage. But Gianluca Brambilla did drift hard left, and that's enough to get you relegated to the last spot, so he'll finish fourth. It was a great sprint there amongst the first two, and Vendrame did an amazing job to seal out today's longest stage of this year's Giro. Now behind with the GC favorites, nothing happens. After the first 60 kilometers, they sit up and they're going up all the climbs pretty easy. Ineos is riding just two guys on the front, Filippo Ganna and Salvatore Puccio. They'll ride all the way to the Category 3, and the two Trek Segafredo riders, Ciccone and Vincenzo Nibali, will try to get away, but Ineos will bring them back right away. On the descent, Vincenzo Nibali wants to light it up, and he's carving through the corners. Behind, it's Ineos rider Gianni Moscon trying to stay with them until they go through the right and a quick left, and it's Moscon on the floor crashing. This is big mistake here on Gianni Moscon. There was absolutely zero reason for him to follow Vincenzo Nibali's wheel. Vincenzo's not a threat on GC. He's just an Italian rider, and he's putting on a show. He's in Italy, so he just wants to do a little flamboyant descent because he's known for that. Gianni Moscon falls for it, tries to follow him, and crashes. Behind, the Ineos riders had already gapped off Vincenzo Nibali and Gianni Moscon, so Moscon's sole job right there should have been just to sit up, go back with his race leader, Egan Bernal, and just tow him into the finish. They had 4 kilometers at the bottom of that climb to bring back Vincenzo Nibali, which could have been done easily with the 3 Ineos Domestique still left to work for Egan Bernal. Big mistake for Gianni Moscon to try to continue and follow Vincenzo Nibali just to crash himself on today's stage. He will get up and finish with that front group and keep his GC places, but how he wakes up tomorrow is more important than what his final result was on today's stage. The crash like that could easily readjust the bones and the muscles. He might come bad really quick after tomorrow's stage. Long stage still tomorrow. It's flat, but once the muscles are realigned and the bones are realigned, that can cause some inflammation, and we can see Gianni Moscon go really bad here later at this year's Giro if today's crash had any kind of negative effect on his body. Look for that and see if it comes out in the future stages at this year's Giro. Hope you guys like the butterfly effect. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you real soon.